What's up, people? I am back for another video. So I decided not to do the Seagal film because outside of the chair fight, it was very fucking boring and not even like enough to do a video on. It wasn't like not even necessarily fun bad, like enough to just riff on it. It was just straight up just bad. I found it very boring. So I just decided not to do a video about it. What I'm doing today, thankfully, my friend Mara, this is a movie she suggested I watch. It's something I've never seen. She mentioned it on her stream last night. It is called Warriors of Virtue. I have never heard of this film. Watch a trailer for it before the movie. And the premise is this kid who's created this character. The main character's name is Ryan Jeffers. Who he's kind of like a water boy for his school's football team. And he's created his own characters. And this world, where he meets the Warriors of Virtue, and they're these anthropomorphic kangaroos who have powers, and they take on the warlord. Cyanide, who, I'll be honest, he's probably the only weak part of the film, but you gotta remember, this was like a kid's movie, and it's funny enough, you know who directed this? I didn't even know it. I just saw it until the end of the movie. Ronnie Yu, has directed some great movies, because he did, I think he did Bride of Chucky. He's the one who did those movies, so he did that a year after this movie. He also did Freddy vs. Jason, which I actually really enjoyed. So he's done some really good stuff, and those are both, well, Bride of Chucky and Freddy vs. Jason are kind of similar genres. They're both slashers. But, like, doing something like that, and I think he's done some of the Fast and Furious movies, too. Like, the first couple. I'll give Roddy credit. He's done some different genre films. Whereas, yeah, this is like a kid's martial arts fantasy film. You know, it's very, it's an out there movie. Obviously, some of the effects look pretty dated. And when the first intro, when you first meet the Warriors of Virtue, they're just kicking things around. It does have like a Power Rangers kind of feel to it. And I think that's why I think I was able to flock to, and apparently a lot of people did not like the movie, which is, I mean, I get it. It's a very out there plot, especially in 1997, and I think if you don't go in without having a kid, I can kind of see it just being weird. And like I said, some of the acting isn't the best, particularly, especially from the bully, the main football jock. I'll be honest, his acting is pretty bad, but outside of that, like, a lot of the kid characters I liked. Ryan's friend, and they have to look for this thing called the manuscript, which, I'll be honest, very much is like literally just a MacGuffin, but it's fine. And his friend Chucky, who I like, him and Chucky like were solid kid characters. Like, it's one of those movies, kind of like the Last Starfighter, where it's one of those movies where you could be a kid. I could see a kid imagining like this kind of world, and then you get sent there. Last Action Hero, I'll even throw that in there, where it's like you can imagine being a kid and you can enjoy this movie. I can see being a kid and liking. Obviously, I could set the world's out there. The villain isn't the best. The plot isn't, like, if you could probably break apart the plot if you really look at it. But it's a fun movie. And I thought this movie had, like, a lot of these movies that have a universal message. So I think this movie does a good job in having that. It's a fun, like, I think if you look at it as a kid's movie, especially in the late 90s, I think you can appreciate it. Like, I'll be honest. Like, Ryan's mom's a pointless character, but you gotta be honest, a lot of these movies where, like, the kids are core characters, Generally, let's be real, the parents are just kind of there because you have to have a parent character. A lot of times, the kid's gonna be the focus. He's getting all the adventures. So the mom's just kind of there. Like, you just kind of see her passing through the movie. And only in, like, really the beginning, a little bit of the middle before he goes to meet up with the jock characters. And then this is where they get into, like, a water plant. Like a creepy water plant. And he crosses a water pipe opens and he gets sent to the water. And this is where he wakes up into the world. And pretty much this is where he meets the Warriors of Virtue, and he helps them take down Komodo, and they need to get the manuscript. And Ryan, like, helps. I will say it. It's a kid's kind of dream movie, right? Because you help save the world, or that world. You help fighting evil. If one thing I can say about this movie was this movie had imagination. Like, for sure. It had imagination. Like, even bad movies at this time, you could at least see there was some imagination put into this. Because this does feel like a kid would have wrote this plot. Another movie like that, and maybe we'll review it maybe next week. Fuck it. It's in the same vein, Indian in the Cupboard, where this kid has a magic toy cupboard, where it brings toys to life. Like, that's another one of those type of movies where you can kind of see yourself being the kid. Like, I can see this movie being very big with the kids. Do I think a lot of adults would have liked it? No, because the plot, I'll be honest, is very basic. The villain, I'll be honest, isn't the best. Komodo. Like, come on, his name is Komodo. But I thought he was I accept that in these kind of movies, the villain's not going to have anything interesting. They're kind of just meant, they're almost written to lose. And what I mean is, like, they're written to lose. Not all the time. There are kids' movies that could have complex villains where they almost win, like Scar, right? A lot of those kind of, like Lion King. Like, there's some movies. But a lot of times, you'll get some kids' movies where the villain's just almost cartoonish. And I'm going to say Komodo's kind of that, where he's very cartoonish. It's almost like some Power Ranger villains. Though there are Power Ranger villains that do win, don't get me wrong, I understand that. But some Power Rangers villains are just written just to be one-off villains that are just, they're almost comedy villains where they're just written, no real arc. There's no chance of winning. Like, that's how I felt like with Komodo and his henchmen. They were all just there to be his henchmen. And he's a bad guy. That's it. That's fine. I don't inherently hate that. So, as a movie, I would give this a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the world. Obviously, some of the effects look dated, but I thought the forest that once you land in was great. Lie is probably my favorite one, along with Chi. Like, those two are like probably my favorite two of the Warriors. So, and overall, I like the different powers they had and the showcase of them, and I like the final fight. So overall, it's a fun little movie. I'd watch it again. So I can understand why people like it, Like I said, it's not the greatest movie in the world. I'm not expecting the greatest plot ever. And yeah, it's very basic, but I enjoyed it. So, out of 10, I give it a 7. the plan tomorrow. I found a screenwrite article for tomorrow where it sounds like it's gonna be another Buffy one. Where what the article looks like is they're going through like, oh, the modern show can fix the controversy. And I already like read ahead, and I could already tell it's like the show didn't have enough black characters and representation and all this dumb shit. So we'll roast that tomorrow, and then I'll figure out what I'm gonna do on the weekend. Other than that, subscribe to Pin Down Podcast. We will be going live on Saturday for our normal Saturday show, so look out for that. And yeah. So other than that, let's be getting into this movie. So we meet Ryan Jeffers, who has a disability to his leg. He really wants to be. He's like relatively a normal kid. Otherwise, he has a disability, so he can't like play sports. So he's a water boy. He has a crush on the quarterback's girlfriend. You know, he's like a normal kid. He's into comics. And this is where he meets the owner of his favorite restaurant, Ming. Gives him the manuscript of Tao, which represents earth, fire, water, wood, and metal. Brad, who's the main like jock and quarterback of the football team, who earlier in the movie he gives him a suggestion on how to win, and he does. So they do. And that night, that's where Brad and his friends invite him out. Him and Chucky. So they go to a power plant, and Brad dares him to go kind of go across this narrow pipe to spray his name. And while he attempts to do it, the pipe breaks, and this is where he's sent to the world, because he falls into this, like, water that's going into like a vortex. And this is where he's transported to the world. And yeah, his leg works, and this is where he meets a dwarf and Alicia. And that's where she tells him he's in Tao. And this is where he tells him about the manuscript, but it's a different manuscript. And this is where he meets Master Chung. And this is where he meets the 4 of the 5 warriors. We meet Lai, warrior of wood, Chi, warrior of fire, and Sun of warrior of earth, and then Yi, warrior of metal. And this is where they tell him that the manuscript has been looking for by Lord Komodo. And he kind of tells him about the war. And Master Chung's a good master. I love movies like this where you kind of have like an old-timey master. It's one of those tropes that just always works. Even if it is a trope, I will never get over it, especially done right? You know? And this is where Muddalap leads them into General Grillo, who works for Komodo, but he ends up getting saved, and they go after the manuscript. They're nearly killed. Komodo kidnaps Ryan, and that's where Alicia, who at this point turned on them and tells him to read the book. Um, Elijah is killed. I'm just gonna call her. I know it's Alicia. Could be that. Um, Muddalap actually ends up helping him. And that's when he kills Muddalap for betraying him. Um, and basically Ryan tricks him to overusing his power, and the warriors come together and use their powers. And E, who throughout the film doesn't speak, who finally ends up being able to speak. And they reform into a kind man. And I actually like that. Because it's one of these, like, I mean, obviously it's a kid's movie, so they're not going to have them just straight up kill him. But actually, though there are kids' movies, especially at this time, that were killing Village straight up. But I kind of like that this is a different take. You know, let's turn them and use our powers. It's an interesting world. Like I said, it's an out there movie. And you would think, like, and maybe some people it did. They saw some of these anthropomorphic kangaroos, and maybe it could be in the designs for some people. But for me, I thought they worked enough, and the world makes it believable enough that I'm okay with the designs. It's almost like Doctor Who to me, where Doctor Who has some really out there alien designs, but the world makes you like believe it so much that it's like I can accept it. You know, it's believable plot. I know they were all good characters, just in general. Master Chung was a good character, right? You know, Ryan's back at the pipe. He doesn't cross the pipe. Brad's trapped on the other side, and because you know Brad's talking shit, his friends kind of turn on him. He apologizes to his mom. Yeah, that's kind of how the movie ends. So it's a great, like, kind of adventure movie. I think that's why I like it, because I, in general, like adventure movies like that where a kid goes to another world. I like Last Action Hero, this movie, I think of another one. Indian in the Cupboard wasn't bad, but even, like, within his home, you know, this idea of you have, like, this... You know, it's like these imagination movies, and that's fundamentally what filmmaking should be. But if you're making movies with kids, this is ideally what I want. Because let's be real, a lot of kids have imaginations, and there's so much scenarios they come up with. Like, Last Starfighter is another one like that, where it's a kid's imagination, where they go on an adventure. Granted, he's not a kid; he's like a high schooler, but it still is the same idea. Would you want to be saved, you know, sent to a world where you could fight with, you know, these superheroes essentially and, like, help save the world? Like, it's like it's like if you read comics and you do all that stuff, that's like being transported into the world and you're helping save the world. That's fucking crazy. And I think that's why it works for me. Not the greatest movie ever. It's a very out there movie, and some of the acting is wonky, and obviously some of the effects are very dated, especially in 1997. But you gotta remember, Anaconda came out the same year, and that has dated effects. 97 can be hit or miss, because you had Lost World, Jurassic Park, right? And then, you know, Fifth Element. I'm trying to think of another movie that had really good effects that year. I'm gonna say those two because those are like have like crazy kind of world designs and landscapes, especially Fifth Element with a lot of like the futuristic stuff. So it's like not everything could be those movies because it could be very hit and miss. Because yeah, some of the effects in this movie weren't great, but it's fine. I enjoyed it. Likable characters, the world's interesting enough. So I'm definitely gonna watch this again. I gotta thank Mara for recommending me this movie. very much like a 7 out of 10 movie. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it's decent enough. So that's really all I got to say about it. I actually enjoyed the score too. I actually thought the score was pretty good. There's actually another element of this movie I really liked was the score. But outside of that, I'm gonna probably get ready to wrap it here. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be doing a Screen Rant article. We're gonna roast the fuck out of it, and then I'll figure out what we're gonna do on the weekend, and then that's it. Saturday, Pin Down Podcasts will be back, and yeah. But other than that, guys, I will call it here. Yeah. Anyways. Alright, y'all. Talk to y'all later. Peace.